Jurassic World, Sorna, Part 3. By Aidan Richardson. The dense canopy of Isla Sorna loomed overhead, casting dappled shadows across the forest floor. Alex Marsh stood amidst the foliage, his eyes scanning the area with a mixture of urgency and concern. The jungle buzzed with life, but his focus remained on the task at hand, finding Jackson Hardwell and his loyal companion, Shellshock. The team had been searching for hours, their efforts hampered by the island's labyrinthine terrain. Isabella Summers, her youthful determination tempered by recent experiences, knelt beside a patch of disturbed earth. "Over here," she called, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. Alex moved quickly to her side, followed closely by Dr. Rebecca Lynn and the rest of the team. The sight that greeted them was unsettling. Shellshock, the velociraptor Jackson had raised from an egg, lay motionless on the ground. A tranquilizer dart protruded from his neck, its metallic sheen catching the light. Jackson, however, was nowhere to be found. Alex's heart sank. The implications were clear. InGen was involved. The corporation's shadowy machinations had already wreaked havoc on the island, and now they had taken Jackson. He exchanged a glance with Rebecca, whose expression mirrored his own concern. "We need to wake him," Rebecca said, her voice calm but urgent. She reached into her first aid kit, retrieving a small vial of smelling salts. Carefully, she removed the dart from Shellshock's neck, her movements precise and gentle. The velociraptor's chest rose and fell steadily, a testament to his resilience. As Rebecca held the smelling salts beneath Shellshock's nostrils, the rest of the team formed a protective circle around them. The T-Rex and the Spinosaurus, the island's apex predators, stood at a respectful distance, their massive forms a reminder of the delicate balance between human intervention and nature. Slowly, Shellshock's eyes fluttered open. The velociraptor's gaze was sharp and alert, a testament to the bond he shared with Jackson. He shifted his head, taking in the faces of the team before letting out a low, questioning growl. "Easy, boy," Alex murmured, stepping forward. He offered his hand, palm open, as a gesture of reassurance. Shellshock sniffed the air, his instincts telling him that these humans were allies. Isabella crouched beside Alex, her eyes filled with empathy. "We need to find Jackson," she said softly, her voice carrying a note of determination. The team nodded in agreement, their resolve solidified by the raptor's awakening. Rebecca rose to her feet, her expression thoughtful. "If InGen has him, they'll likely take him to their facility," she speculated, her mind already working through the possibilities. "We need to act quickly." The jungle around them seemed to hold its breath, as if aware of the gravity of their mission. The team exchanged glances, each member understanding the risks but also the necessity of their task. They had to rescue Jackson, expose InGen's plans, and protect the island from further exploitation. Alex took a deep breath, his resolve unwavering. "Let's move," he said, his voice steady and commanding. The team fell into formation, Shellshock at their side, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As they ventured deeper into the jungle, the path ahead was uncertain, but their purpose was clear. They would find Jackson, confront InGen, and ensure that Isla Sorna remained a sanctuary for its ancient inhabitants. Rebecca's suggestion hung in the air, a strategic pivot that resonated with the team. "We need to gather more allies from the island's creatures," she proposed, her voice carrying the weight of experience and foresight. The idea of enlisting the island's inhabitants was not new, but now, with Jackson's capture, it seemed more crucial than ever. Alex nodded, his mind already racing through the possibilities. "If we can rally the dinosaurs, we might stand a better chance against InGen," he agreed, his gaze shifting to Shellshock. The velociraptor had proven invaluable, his instincts and intelligence a testament to the bond he shared with Jackson. Just then, Shellshock stopped in his tracks, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the surrounding jungle. A low, guttural call escaped his throat, reverberating through the dense foliage. The sound was both a signal and a summons, a call to arms that seemed to vibrate with urgency. The reaction was immediate. The bushes around the team began to rustle, the underbrush alive with movement. The T-Rex and the Spinosaurus, ever watchful, rose to their full height, their massive forms poised to strike if necessary. Their presence was a reminder of the delicate alliance that had been forged, a balance between human intervention and primal instinct. Alex's eyes widened as realization dawned. "He's calling for his family," he murmured, a mixture of awe and admiration in his voice. During their previous expedition on Isla Sorna, they had encountered Shellshock's mother and his 4 siblings, a formidable group of velociraptors that had left a lasting impression. The rustling grew louder, and soon, the familiar forms of Shellshock's family emerged from the jungle. The velociraptors moved with a fluid grace, their eyes sharp and intelligent as they assessed the situation. Shellshock stepped forward, a series of clicks and chirps passing between him and his kin, a language of their own that spoke of trust and unity. Isabella watched the interaction with wide-eyed wonder. "They're communicating," she whispered, her voice filled with a mixture of excitement and reverence. The sight was a testament to the complex social structures of the island's creatures, a reminder of the world that existed beyond human understanding. Rebecca stepped closer, her gaze fixed on the raptors. "This could be the edge we need," she said, her voice steady and confident. The addition of Shellshock's family to their ranks bolstered their chances, a living testament to the power of alliances forged in the wild. As the team regrouped, the jungle around them seemed to pulse with life, the air thick with anticipation. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but with their newfound allies, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay in wait. Alex took a deep breath, his resolve unshaken. "Let's move," he commanded, his voice carrying the weight of leadership and determination. With Shellshock and his family by their side, the team set off, their mission clear and their purpose unwavering. The jungle's dense canopy filtered the sunlight into a mosaic of green and gold, casting a serene glow over the team as they moved with purpose. Alex Marsh led the way, his mind focused on the task at hand, locating the secret engine facility hidden somewhere within the island's vast expanse. The stakes were high, and every decision carried the weight of their mission's success or failure. As they navigated through the underbrush, Alex's thoughts turned to strategy. They needed a plan that would allow them to act without drawing too much attention to themselves. The island's creatures, with their innate understanding of the terrain and their potential as allies, were central to his thinking. Once they reached a small clearing, Alex gathered the team. "We need to be ready for anything," he began, his voice steady and authoritative. "If we find the facility, we might need to be secretive about our intentions. We can't afford to let Engine know we're onto them." Rebecca nodded, her analytical mind already considering the possibilities. "We could use the dinosaurs to create a diversion," she suggested, her gaze shifting to the Spinosaurus and the T-Rex, who stood nearby, their massive forms a testament to nature's power. Alex's eyes lit up with a spark of an idea. "Exactly," he agreed, turning to the two apex predators. "If we can get them to pretend to break into the shipping truck where the Dilophosaurus are caged, it might draw the soldiers away from the facility." The plan was simple yet effective. By creating a distraction, the team could slip past Engine's defenses and gather the information they needed without raising suspicion. It was a gamble, but one worth taking given the circumstances. The T-Rex and the Spinosaurus seemed to understand, their keen instincts sensing the urgency of the situation. With a low rumble, they acknowledged Alex's request, their eyes gleaming with a primal intelligence that transcended human comprehension. Isabella watched the exchange with a mixture of awe and admiration. "It's amazing how they respond to us," she remarked, her voice filled with wonder. The bond between the team and the island's creatures was a testament to the possibilities of cooperation and mutual respect. With the plan in place, the team resumed their journey, their senses heightened by the anticipation of what lay ahead. The jungle around them was alive with the sounds of life, a symphony of nature that underscored the gravity of their mission. As they ventured deeper into the heart of the island, the path ahead remained uncertain, but their purpose was clear. They would find the engine facility, expose its secrets, and protect Isla Sorna from further exploitation. The atmosphere was thick with tension as the team stood at the edge of the jungle, the looming presence of the engine facility just beyond their sight. The structure was hidden within a cluster of trees, its stark, metallic exterior a jarring contrast to the vibrant greens of Isla Sorna. Alex Marsh gathered the team, their faces a mix of determination and anxiety. "We need to devise a plan," he said, his voice steady. "We can't just walk in there. We need a distraction to draw the guards away from the entrance while the rest of us slip inside." Michael Brown, the geneticist with a knack for improvisation, stepped forward. "I'll do it," he volunteered, a spark of mischief in his eyes. "I can act like I'm being chased by an Allosaurus. If I make enough noise, it should lure them away." Rebecca raised an eyebrow, her expression a mix of skepticism and admiration. "Are you sure about that? Allosaurus are unpredictable, and you'll need to be quick on your feet." Michael shrugged, a confident grin spreading across his face. "I've dealt with dinosaurs before. I can handle it. Plus, it'll give you all the time you need to get inside. Just make sure you're ready to move when I give the signal." Alex nodded, appreciating Michael's willingness to take on the risk. "All right, we'll position ourselves near the entrance. When you're ready, create a scene. Make it loud and chaotic. That should give us the window we need." The team quickly finalized their positions. Alex, Rebecca, Isabella, and the velociraptors would wait just outside the facility, ready to slip in as soon as Michael drew the guards away. The plan was risky, but they had no choice. It was a necessary gamble for the sake of their mission. As Michael prepared himself, the tension in the air crackled with anticipation. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for the task ahead. "Just keep an eye on me," he said, giving a thumbs up before disappearing into the underbrush. The rest of the team settled into their positions, hearts pounding as they waited for the signal. Minutes felt like hours as they listened intently for any signs of commotion. The jungle was eerily quiet, the sounds of life muted in the face of their impending confrontation. Suddenly, a distant roar echoed through the trees, sending a shiver down Alex's spine. It was followed by the unmistakable sound of branches snapping and leaves rustling, a cacophony of chaos that signaled Michael's approach. "Now!" Alex shouted, his voice cutting through the tension. The team sprang into action, moving swiftly toward the facility's entrance, their hearts racing as they prepared to slip inside. The team slipped through the entrance of the engine facility, their hearts pounding in unison as they crossed the threshold into a world of cold steel and fluorescent lights. The stark contrast between the vibrant jungle outside and the sterile environment inside was jarring. As they moved deeper into the facility, they found themselves in a sprawling laboratory filled with rows of cryopods, each housing a different terrifying hybrid dinosaur. Alex's eyes widened as he took in the sight before him. "What have they been working on?" he whispered, a mix of awe and horror creeping into his voice. The pods were lined up like a sinister display, each one containing a creature that was both magnificent and grotesque, genetic experiments that blurred the line between nature and monstrosity. Rebecca stepped closer to one of the pods, her breath catching in her throat. "These hybrids, they're incredible," she murmured, her scientific curiosity battling with the ethical implications of their existence. "But this is wrong. They shouldn't be here." Isabella took a step back, her expression a blend of fascination and dread. "What if they wake up?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The thought of these creatures being unleashed sent a shiver down her spine. Meanwhile, outside, Michael was executing his part of the plan. He sprinted through the clearing, his heart racing as he glanced back to see the Allosaurus barreling towards him, its massive jaws open wide. The guards, caught off guard by the sudden appearance of the predator, scrambled to react. In a moment of sheer instinct, Michael ducked to the side just as the Allosaurus lunged. The creature's powerful jaws snapped shut around the two guards, the sound of bone crunching echoing through the air. Michael's stomach turned at the sight, but he knew he had to keep moving. With the guards dispatched, the Allosaurus turned its attention to the sounds of chaos behind it, giving Michael the opportunity he needed to retreat into the facility. He dashed through the entrance, breathing heavily as he rejoined the team. "Did you see that?" he gasped, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "That was too close." Alex quickly motioned for silence, his eyes darting toward the exit. "We need to focus. We've got to gather evidence and get out of here before more guards arrive." The team moved deeper into the lab, their eyes scanning the rows of cryopods. They could hear the faint hum of machinery, a reminder of the cold, clinical nature of Engine's operations. Each pod contained a creature that had been engineered for one purpose or another, some with features of dinosaurs they recognized, others with traits that were utterly alien. "Look at this one." Rebecca pointed to a pod that housed a hybrid with the sleek body of a raptor but the size of a small T-Rex. "This is a combination of Velociraptor and Tyrannosaurus. It's terrifying." As they gathered around the pod, Isabella noticed something on the console nearby. "There are files here," she said, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "If I can access the data, we might find out what Engine has planned." Just as she began to download the information, a loud alarm blared throughout the facility, red lights flashing ominously. The sound echoed through the halls, signaling that their presence had been detected. "We have to go, now," Alex shouted, urgency flooding his voice. The team quickly moved to gather the evidence, but the sound of approaching footsteps filled the air, growing louder by the second. As the alarm blared through the facility, panic surged within the team. Alex quickly assessed their options, his mind racing. "We need to hide," he urged, glancing around at the rows of cryopods. "If we can stay out of sight, we might be able to avoid the guards." Without hesitation, the team moved swiftly, ducking behind the nearest cryopod, their hearts pounding in unison. Isabella, however, remained focused on her task. "I just need a few more seconds to get the files," she whispered, her fingers dancing over the keyboard. The sound of heavy boots echoed down the corridor, growing closer with every passing moment. The guards were on high alert, their voices sharp and tense as they discussed the situation. "Did you see that? The Allosaurus just took out 2 of our men," one of them exclaimed, his voice laced with urgency. "Stay sharp. We need to secure the facility," another guard replied, his tone commanding. "Check the labs, they could be hiding anywhere." Isabella's heart raced as she continued to download the files, her eyes darting nervously toward the entrance. She knew time was running out. The guards were drawing nearer, their shadows looming against the cold metallic walls. Just as the download reached its final moments, Isabella's breath caught in her throat. She quickly glanced around for a place to hide. Spotting a table positioned against the wall, she dove beneath it, pressing herself against the cool floor. The table offered a narrow sanctuary, and she held her breath, hoping the guards wouldn't notice her. The guards entered the lab, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. "Check everywhere," one said, scanning the area with a keen eye. "They could be right under our noses." Isabella remained perfectly still, her heart pounding in her chest. The guards moved closer, their footsteps echoing ominously in the silence. She could hear their muffled voices, the tension palpable in the air. "Nothing here," one of the guards grumbled, frustration creeping into his tone. "They must have slipped out while we were distracted." "Keep looking," the other guard insisted. "We can't let them get away." As they continued their search, Isabella's download finished, the files securely stored on her device. She smiled to herself, grateful for the small victory amidst the chaos. The guards, however, were still on high alert, and she knew she had to remain hidden until they left. After what felt like an eternity, the guards finally moved on, their voices fading as they exited the lab. Isabella let out a silent breath of relief, grateful to have escaped detection. She crawled out from under the table, her heart racing with adrenaline. Once she was sure the coast was clear, she quickly rejoined the rest of the team, who had been holding their breath in anticipation. "I got the files," Isabella whispered excitedly, her eyes shining with triumph. "Great work," Alex replied, relief flooding his voice. "Now we need to get out of here before they return." The team quickly formulated a plan to exit the facility, their minds racing with the possibilities of the information Isabella had secured. They had a chance to expose Injun's plans, but first, they had to make it out alive. As the adrenaline began to subside, a sobering thought washed over Isabella. She turned to her father, her expression serious. "Dad, we can't forget about Jackson. He's still being held captive by Injun." Alex's heart sank at the reminder. They had been so focused on gathering evidence that they had almost lost sight of their primary goal, rescuing Jackson. He nodded, determination igniting within him. "You're right, Isabella. We need to find him." Shellshock, sensing the urgency in the air, looked up at Alex, his eyes filled with a mix of concern and loyalty. The bond between them was palpable, a silent understanding that they were in this together. Alex glanced around the lab, his gaze landing on a large map of the facility affixed to the wall. The map detailed various sections, including the labs, storage areas, and security checkpoints. He moved closer, studying it intently. "Let's see if we can figure out where they might be keeping him," he said, gesturing for the others to join him. The team gathered around the map, their eyes scanning the layout for any signs of where Jackson could be held. Rebecca pointed to a section labeled holding cells. "This area looks like it could be where they keep prisoners or test subjects," she suggested. "It's located deeper in the facility, away from the main labs." Isabella nodded, her fingers tracing the lines on the map. "If we can get there, we might be able to find Jackson and get him out." Alex looked at the map, then back at his team. "All right, we need to make our way to the holding cells. But we have to be careful. The guards will be on high alert after the alarm." With a renewed sense of purpose, the team began to formulate a plan to navigate through the facility. They would have to use stealth and cunning to avoid detection while making their way to Jackson. As they prepared to move, Shellshock let out a soft growl, as if sensing the gravity of their mission. Alex reached down and gently patted the velociraptor's head, drawing strength from their bond. "Let's go save our friend," Alex said, his voice steady. The team nodded in agreement, their resolve solidified by the shared goal of rescuing Jackson. The tension was palpable as the team prepared to split into two groups. The need to rescue Jackson was pressing, and they knew they had to act quickly. Alex, Isabella, Michael, Jasmine, and Shellshock formed one group, tasked with heading directly to the holding cells. Meanwhile, Jacob, Connor, Rebecca, Rachel, and Lindsay volunteered to create a distraction, understanding the risks involved. "Be careful," Alex urged, his eyes meeting those of his friends who were about to put themselves in harm's way. Their nods of determination were all the assurance he needed. They were ready to do whatever it took to protect their friends and accomplish their mission. As Jacob's group moved off to draw the guards' attention, Alex led his team through the winding corridors of the facility. They moved quickly and quietly, their hearts pounding with each step. The stakes were high, and failure was not an option. When they finally reached the holding cells, their hearts sank. The area was empty, devoid of any sign of Jackson. The realization hit them hard. Jackson was not there. Before they could regroup and formulate a new plan, Shellshock suddenly bolted from the area, his instincts driving him to search for his best friend. "Shellshock, wait," Alex called after him, but the velociraptor was already out of sight, determined to find Jackson on his own. In the midst of their confusion, the sound of footsteps echoed down the corridor. Before they could react, guards surrounded them, weapons drawn. Alex, Isabella, Michael, and Jasmine were quickly overpowered and locked inside one of the holding cells. The cold, metallic walls of the cell closed in around them, a stark reminder of their precarious situation. Alex's mind raced as he tried to think of a way out, but the reality of their capture was undeniable. A short while later, the door to the cell opened again, and Jacob's group was ushered inside, joining them in confinement. "They got us," Jacob admitted, frustration evident in his voice. "We tried to hold them off, but there were too many." The team sat in silence, the weight of their situation pressing down on them. Despite the setback, their resolve remained unbroken. They had come this far, and they were determined to find a way out and rescue Jackson. The cold, metallic walls of the holding cell seemed to close in around Alex, the weight of their situation pressing heavily on his shoulders. He sat with his back against the wall, a box of poker cards in his hand. One by one, he tossed the cards at the opposite wall, each flick of his wrist a silent expression of frustration and despair. The cards fluttered and fell, forming a scattered mosaic on the floor. It was a futile gesture, but it was all he could do to keep his mind from spiraling into hopelessness. With each card that hit the wall, the reality of their predicament became more palpable. Jasmine watched him from across the cell, her heart aching at the sight of her husband so defeated. She moved closer, her voice gentle and reassuring. "Alex, we will find Jackson. We've faced tough situations before, and we've always come through." Alex didn't respond, his eyes fixed on the cards as they continued to fall. Her words were meant to comfort, but the weight of their failure was too heavy to shake off. They had come so far, only to end up trapped and powerless. Jasmine reached out, placing a hand on his shoulder. "We can't give up now. We have to believe that we'll find a way out of this and stop Injun's plans." But Alex remained silent, his gaze distant. The burden of leadership, of having led his team into what felt like a dead end, was a heavy mantle to bear. He wanted to believe Jasmine, to find the strength to keep fighting, but in that moment, the path forward seemed shrouded in darkness. The rest of the team watched the exchange, their own spirits dampened by the reality of their situation. Yet, within the confines of the cell, there was a shared understanding, a silent agreement that they would not let despair claim them entirely. They had faced dangers before, and though the odds seemed insurmountable, they knew they had to hold on to hope. For Jackson, for Shellshock, and for the island they had sworn to protect. As the silence in the holding cell lingered, Isabella couldn't bear to see her father so defeated. She rose from her spot and moved over to Alex, her heart heavy with concern. Without a word, she wrapped her arms around him in a tight embrace, hoping to convey the strength and love that flowed between them. "Hey, Dad," she whispered softly, laying her head on his shoulder. "We'll find a way out of this. You've always taught me to keep fighting, no matter how tough things get." Alex felt the warmth of her presence seep into the cold despair that had settled around him. He closed his eyes for a moment, allowing himself to savor the comfort of her embrace. It was a reminder that they were in this together, that they had each other's backs no matter the odds. She gently took the box of poker cards from his hands, setting them aside. "These won't help us right now," she said, her voice steady. "We need to focus on finding a way to get out of here and rescue Jackson." Alex finally turned to face her, his expression softening. "I know, Isabella. I feel responsible for all of this. For putting everyone in danger." Isabella shook her head, her gaze unwavering. "You did what you thought was right. We all did. And we're going to get through this together. We just need to stay focused." With renewed determination, Alex nodded, the flicker of hope reigniting within him. Isabella's words had struck a chord, reminding him of the strength that came from their unity. They were a team, and together they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. As they shared this moment of connection, the rest of the team looked on, a sense of camaraderie filling the air. They were not alone in their struggles, they were bound by a common purpose, and that purpose would guide them forward. As the team began to regain their composure, Connor, feeling a surge of curiosity, moved to the door of their holding cell. He peered through the small barred window, his heart racing as he scanned the corridor outside. The tension in the air was thick, a palpable reminder of their precarious situation. Suddenly, he spotted movement, a figure being escorted by 2 guards. The prisoner looked disheveled but defiant, their eyes scanning the area as they were roughly shoved into the holding cell across from Connor's group. The door slammed shut with a resounding clang, echoing through the corridor. "Hey," Connor called out, waving his hand in an attempt to get the other prisoner's attention. The figure turned, and for a moment, their eyes locked. To Connor's surprise, the prisoner waved back, a flicker of recognition passing between them. "Do you know who that is?" Alex asked, moving closer to the door to get a better look. The other prisoner appeared to be a woman, her features obscured by the dim light of the corridor. Connor shook his head. "No idea, but she seems familiar. Maybe she's been here longer than we have." The woman stepped closer to the bars of her cell, her expression a mix of determination and urgency. I heard you talking, she said, her voice low but clear. You're here to rescue someone, right? I can help you. Alex exchanged glances with the rest of the team, their interest piqued. What do you know? He asked, leaning in closer. I've been watching the guards, she replied, her voice steady despite the circumstances. They're planning to move some prisoners soon, including a man named Jackson. If you want to save him, we need to act fast. The team listened intently, hope blooming at the prospect of new information. This stranger could be the key to their escape and Jackson's rescue. The atmosphere in the holding cell shifted as the team decided to collaborate with the new prisoner. Connor stepped back, allowing Michael to take his place at the barred window, eager to communicate with the woman who might hold the key to their escape. Hey, Michael said, leaning in closer, his voice low but urgent. We want to help you get out of here. What do you know about the layout of this place? Can you tell us how we can escape? The woman nodded, her expression serious. I've been observing the guards for a while now. There are shifts every hour, and they tend to get lax during the changeover. If we can time it right, we might be able to slip out unnoticed. Michael glanced back at the team, who were listening intently. What about the cells? Are there any weaknesses we can exploit? The locks are electronic, but I've seen a maintenance panel near the end of the corridor. If we can get to it, I might be able to short-circuit the locks, she explained, her gaze flicking between Michael and the rest of the team. But we'll need a distraction to draw the guards away while we make our move. Alex stepped forward, a plan forming in his mind. We can create a diversion using the other prisoners. If you can get their attention, we can make our way to that maintenance panel. The woman nodded, a determined look in her eyes. I can call out to them. If they start making noise, it might buy you the time you need. Michael exchanged a glance with Alex, who nodded in agreement. Let's do it then. We need to act fast. As the team began to formulate their escape plan, the tension in the air shifted from despair to determination. They were no longer just prisoners, they were a team working together to reclaim their freedom and rescue Jackson. Michael turned back to the woman. What's your name? Emma, she replied, her voice steady. And I'm ready to get out of here. With the plan in place, the team prepared to execute their escape, their spirits lifted by the prospect of working together to overcome the odds stacked against them. With the plan set in motion, Emma took a deep breath and began calling out to the other prisoners, her voice echoing down the corridor. Hey, over here. We need to talk. You won't believe what I've heard. The sound of her voice immediately drew attention. The other prisoners stirred, their curiosity piqued by Emma's boldness. Murmurs began to ripple through the cells, and soon, several voices joined in, echoing her call. Among them was a young man named David, known for his sassy demeanor and quick wit. He leaned against the bars of his cell, a smirk on his face as he spotted one of the guards patrolling nearby. Hey there, handsome, he called out, his tone playful and flirtatious. What do you say we skip the formalities and you let me out for a little chat? I promise I'm worth it. The guard glanced over, a mixture of annoyance and confusion crossing his face. Shut up, you idiot, he barked, but David only leaned further into the banter, clearly enjoying the attention. Come on, just a little chat? I promise I won't bite, unless you ask nicely. David winked, his bravado igniting laughter among the prisoners. The distraction was working, drawing the guard's focus away from Emma and the rest of the team. While the guard rolled his eyes at David's antics, Emma seized the opportunity. Now's our chance, she urged, turning to Michael and the others. Let's move. Michael nodded, and the team quickly positioned themselves, ready to take action. They needed to reach the maintenance panel before the guards regained their composure. As the guards began to approach David's cell, Emma whispered urgently to Michael. We need to hurry. If they realize what's happening, it'll be too late. With adrenaline pumping through their veins, the team slipped out of the holding cell, moving stealthily toward the end of the corridor where the maintenance panel was located. David continued his playful banter, his charisma buying them precious moments. Seriously, I can be a great date. Just think about it, dinner, drinks, and a night of adventure. David called out, keeping the guards distracted as they moved closer to freedom. The plan was working, but they needed to act fast before the guards caught on to the ruse. Emma and Michael reached the maintenance panel, their hearts racing as they assessed the situation. Emma examined the locks, her brow furrowing with concern. These locks don't seem like they can be disabled easily, she whispered, her fingers tracing the wires and circuits. We might need to find another way. Just then, Isabella, who had been watching from a distance, stepped forward, her phone in hand. Let me try something, she said confidently. She quickly pulled up an app designed for hacking electronic locks, her fingers flying over the screen. Within moments, a soft beep echoed through the corridor, and the locks began to disengage. Got it, Isabella exclaimed triumphantly, her eyes sparkling with excitement. The door to David's cell slightly opened, a testament to her skill. David seized the opportunity, his playful demeanor shifting into action. With a swift kick, he slammed his foot against the door, sending it flying open and knocking the guard he had been distracting unconscious. The guard crumpled to the ground, a look of shock frozen on his face. "Nice work, David," Emma called out, a mix of relief and admiration in her voice. The distraction had worked perfectly, and now they were one step closer to freedom. As the rest of the team began to gather near the now open cell, Michael turned to Isabella. "Can you unlock the other cells too? We need all the help we can get." Isabella nodded, her focus shifting back to her phone. "I can try, but we need to be quick. The guards will realize something's off soon." With urgency in the air, the team rallied together, ready to make their escape. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed down the corridor, a reminder that time was not on their side. Isabella's fingers danced over her phone as she worked diligently to unlock the other cells. The soft beeping of the lock disengaging echoed through the corridor, a sound that filled the team with hope. One by one, the doors swung open, releasing the prisoners who had been trapped inside. As the last cell door opened, the prisoners wasted no time. They bolted from the facility, their eyes wide with the thrill of freedom. A mix of relief and urgency propelled them forward, and soon they were sprinting into the jungle, leaving the oppressive atmosphere of the facility behind. However, Alex and his friends remained rooted in place, their determination unwavering. "We can't leave without Jackson," Alex said firmly, his voice resolute. "We have to find him." Emma, who had just freed herself from her own cell, stepped forward. "I want to help you find him," she declared, her eyes filled with purpose. "If Jackson is still here, we can't abandon him." Isabella nodded in agreement, her heart racing at the prospect of not just escaping but also rescuing their friend. "We need to move quickly. If the guards realize we're still here, they'll come after us." With their resolve solidified, the group set off deeper into the facility, their eyes scanning the surroundings for any sign of Jackson. The hallways felt eerily quiet, the earlier chaos now replaced by an unsettling stillness. As they moved cautiously through the dimly lit corridors, Alex led the way, his instincts honed from years of facing danger. They approached a series of doors, each one marked with labels indicating different areas of the facility. "Let's check the holding cells first," Alex suggested, recalling Emma's earlier mention of Jackson's potential location. "If he's here, that's where they'll keep him." Emma nodded, her determination matching Alex's. "I'll help you look. We can't leave him behind." With urgency driving them forward, the team prepared to search for their friend, each step echoing with the knowledge that time was running out. The tension in the air was palpable as the group stood in the dimly lit corridor, each member aware of the urgency of their mission. Emma, her mind racing with possibilities, suggested, "We should split up to cover more ground. If we can search different areas simultaneously, we might find Jackson faster." Alex nodded in agreement, recognizing the wisdom in her suggestion. "That makes sense. Let's regroup in 30 minutes. If anyone finds Jackson, signal us." With that, they quickly paired off. Connor decided to team up with Emma, their shared determination fueling their resolve. "Let's check the east wing," Connor suggested, leading the way as they moved down the corridor. Alex paired with Isabella and Jasmine, their bond a source of strength as they ventured toward the labs. "We'll check the holding cells first," Alex said, his voice steady. "Stay close and keep your eyes open." Jacob joined forces with Lindsay, both eager to explore the facility's depths. "Let's head toward the medical wing," Jacob proposed, knowing that it might hold clues about Jackson's whereabouts. Rebecca and Rachel teamed up, their combined knowledge of the facility and its operations making them a formidable pair. "We should investigate the research labs," Rebecca suggested. "If they've been experimenting on Jackson, we might find something there." Michael, feeling a sense of urgency to locate Shellshock, chose to search alone. "I'll check the area where we first saw him," he said, determination etched on his face. "I'll find him." With their plan set, the group dispersed, each member driven by the hope of finding Jackson and reuniting with their friend. The facility's dark corridors loomed ahead, filled with both danger and potential discovery. As they moved through the facility, the weight of their mission pressed on them. They had to find Jackson before it was too late. As Jacob and Lindsay navigated through the labyrinthine corridors of the facility, they finally stumbled upon a door marked Research Lab. With a shared glance of determination, they pushed it open, revealing a dimly lit room filled with unsettling sights. The lab was cluttered with equipment, vials of strange substances, and cages that hinted at the dark experiments conducted within these walls. "Look at this," Jacob said, pointing to a table covered with blueprints and genetic sequences. "This must be where they're working on those hybrids. If Jackson was here, they might have experimented on him too." Lindsay moved closer, her brow furrowing as she examined the documents. "These notes, they're detailing the genetic modifications they've been making. They're trying to create something new, something more powerful. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the lab, causing both of them to freeze in place. From the shadows, a massive figure emerged, a dinosaur, its eyes glinting with anger and fear. It was a hybrid, a terrifying mix of raptor and something larger, its muscles rippling beneath its scaled skin. Back away slowly, Jacob whispered, his heart racing. The creature's growl deepened, and it took a step forward, clearly agitated by their presence. Lindsay's eyes widened in horror. What do? We can't fight that thing. Jacob scanned the room, searching for anything they could use to defend themselves or escape. We need to find a way out, now. The hybrid let out a fierce roar, its sharp teeth bared as it prepared to charge. Jacob and Lindsay had to think fast, their lives depended on it. The hybrid lunged at Jacob and Lindsay, its powerful muscles propelling it forward with terrifying speed. Instinct kicked in, and they both scrambled to find cover, adrenaline surging through their veins. Jacob ducked behind a nearby table, while Lindsay pressed herself against the wall, her heart racing. The creature hissed, its anger palpable, but then suddenly, it recoiled, backing away from them. Confusion washed over Jacob and Lindsay as they watched the hybrid's movements. It was as if something had startled it. Before they could process what was happening, a Dilophosaurus emerged from the shadows, its frills extended as it hissed defiantly. With a swift motion, it spat venom directly into the hybrid's eyes, blinding the monstrous creature. The hybrid roared in fury and pain, thrashing its head as it tried to clear its vision. Wow, it's helping us, Jacob exclaimed, astonished by the unexpected turn of events. Seizing the moment, Jacob spotted a pistol lying on a nearby table, likely left behind by a careless researcher. He lunged for it, his hands shaking with adrenaline as he took aim at the hybrid, which was now disoriented and vulnerable. With a steady breath, Jacob pulled the trigger, the gunshot ringing out sharply in the confined space. The bullet struck the hybrid squarely in the forehead, and it collapsed to the ground, lifeless. Lindsay gasped, her eyes wide with disbelief. You did it. You actually did it. As they caught their breath, the Dilophosaurus approached cautiously, its frills retracting as it looked at Jacob and Lindsay with friendly intent in its eyes. The creature seemed to recognize them as allies, its demeanor shifting from aggressive to curious. Thank you, Jacob said softly, lowering the pistol and looking at the Dilophosaurus. You saved us. The creature let out a soft chirp, seemingly pleased by the acknowledgement. Jacob and Lindsay exchanged relieved glances, their hearts still racing from the encounter. Now, let's see if we can find Jackson, Lindsay urged, her determination renewed. They had faced danger and emerged victorious, but their mission was far from over. As Jacob and Lindsay took a moment to catch their breath, Connor and Emma were navigating through the east wing of the facility. The atmosphere was tense, the air thick with the scent of antiseptic and the lingering fear of discovery. They moved cautiously, their senses heightened as they searched for any sign of Jackson. Do you think we're getting close? Connor asked, glancing around the sterile hallway. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. Emma nodded, her determination unwavering. We have to be. I can feel it. Jackson is somewhere in this facility, and we're going to find him. As they rounded a corner, they stumbled upon a series of locked doors, each marked with labels indicating various departments. Emma approached the nearest door, her fingers brushing against the cold metal. If only we had a keycard, she muttered, frustration creeping into her voice. Just then, they heard a commotion down the hall, a loud crash followed by the unmistakable sound of a dinosaur's roar. Connor's eyes widened in alarm. What was that? Emma's heart raced. It sounded like trouble. We need to check it out. They cautiously made their way toward the source of the noise, adrenaline pumping through their veins. As they approached, they could see the chaos unfolding. A hybrid dinosaur had emerged from a lab, and the sounds of struggle echoed through the corridor. Stay low and quiet, Connor instructed, his voice barely above a whisper. They pressed against the wall, peering around the corner to assess the situation. Connor and Emma exchanged determined glances, their resolve solidified by the urgency of the situation. We need to get closer, Connor whispered, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. If we can gather more information about that hybrid and the guards, it might help us find Jackson. Emma nodded, her heart racing as they crept forward, staying low and silent. They moved cautiously, inching closer to the scene of chaos. The hybrid dinosaur was thrashing about, its growls echoing through the corridor as guards shouted commands, trying to regain control of the situation. Peering around the corner, they could see the guards struggling to contain the creature. They looked overwhelmed, Emma observed, her eyes wide with concern. If we can figure out how they're handling it, we might find a way to use that against them. As they inched closer, they overheard snippets of conversation. We need to secure it before it breaks loose. One guard shouted, panic evident in his voice. The other guards were scrambling to contain the hybrid, their efforts frantic. Connor's mind raced with possibilities. If we can distract them just long enough, we might be able to slip past and continue our search for Jackson, he whispered to Emma. Suddenly, the hybrid let out a deafening roar, causing the guards to stumble back. Emma felt a surge of adrenaline as she realized they needed to act quickly before the situation escalated further. As the chaos unfolded before them, Connor's instincts kicked in. We need to find a weapon, he whispered urgently to Emma. If that hybrid breaks free and comes our way, we'll need something to defend ourselves. Emma nodded, her eyes scanning the area for any potential tools or weapons. There has to be something around here, she replied, her heart racing. Let's look for anything we can use. They moved cautiously, keeping low to avoid drawing attention from the guards or the hybrid. As they edged around the corner of the corridor, they spotted a storage closet slightly ajar, the door swinging gently with the commotion. Over there, Connor pointed, his voice barely above a whisper. They hurried to the closet, glancing back at the scene unfolding in the main corridor. The guards were still preoccupied with the hybrid, giving them a brief window of opportunity. Inside the closet, they found an assortment of tools and equipment. Connor quickly grabbed a sturdy metal pipe, while Emma located a heavy-duty flashlight. This should do for now, Emma said, her voice steadying as she held up the flashlight. Let's get back to the corner and see what's happening, Connor suggested, gripping the pipe tightly. They carefully exited the closet, ready to confront whatever might come their way. As they returned to their vantage point, the hybrid continued to thresh, and the guards were growing increasingly frantic. The situation was spiraling out of control, and Connor knew they needed to act fast. Connor and Emma exchanged determined glances, their resolve strengthening as they prepared to navigate the chaos unfolding before them. Let's sneak around, Connor suggested, gripping the metal pipe tightly. If we can stay low and use the distraction to slip past the guards, we might find Jackson without drawing attention to ourselves. Emma nodded, her heart racing with anticipation. We have to be quick and quiet. Let's go. They crouched low and moved stealthily around the corner, keeping their eyes on the guards who were still struggling to contain the thrashing hybrid. The creature's growls echoed through the corridor, creating a cacophony that masked their movements. As they edged closer to the chaos, Connor and Emma carefully maneuvered behind a large piece of equipment, using it as cover. The guards were too focused on the hybrid to notice their presence, and the tension in the air was palpable. Now's our chance, Connor whispered, gesturing for Emma to follow him. They quickly slipped past the guards, their hearts pounding as they moved deeper into the facility. Just as they thought they were in the clear, a loud crash reverberated through the corridor. The hybrid had broken free from its restraints, and the guards were scrambling to regain control. Emma and Connor exchanged frantic looks. Keep moving, Emma urged, her voice steady despite the chaos. They pressed on, determined to find Jackson and escape the madness. As they ventured further into the facility, the sounds of the struggle faded behind them, replaced by an eerie silence. They knew they had to keep their wits about them. Danger could be lurking around any corner. As Connor and Emma cautiously navigated the dimly lit corridor, a sudden movement caught their attention. Before they could react, a group of guards emerged from a side hallway, their expressions stern and vigilant. Hey, stop right there, one of the guards shouted, rushing toward them. Connor and Emma exchanged wide-eyed glances, realizing they had been cornered. They attempted to flee, but the guards were quicker, grabbing them and forcing them to the ground. Get off me, Connor struggled, but it was no use. The guards overpowered them, dragging them through the facility until they reached a large, imposing door marked leader's office. With a swift motion, the guards pushed the door open and threw Connor and Emma inside. They stumbled forward, regaining their footing just in time to take in the scene before them. In the center of the room sat the leader of Ingen, a figure cloaked in darkness, wearing a black mask that obscured their identity. The room was dimly lit, creating an atmosphere of intimidation. Surrounding the leader were several familiar faces, Jackson and the other captured members of their team, bound and clearly distressed. Welcome, the masked leader said, their voice smooth but laced with authority. I believe you've found yourselves in quite the predicament. Connor's heart raced as he spotted Jackson, who was struggling against his restraints but managed to make eye contact with Emma. We're going to get out of this, Jackson said, his voice firm despite the situation. Emma felt a surge of determination. We won't let you keep us here, she declared, her eyes narrowing at the masked figure. You won't get away with this. The leader chuckled softly, leaning back in their chair. You're in no position to make threats, but I admire your spirit. It will make this all the more entertaining. Connor and Emma exchanged worried glances, realizing they needed to think quickly if they were going to save Jackson and themselves. The masked leader leaned forward in their chair, a glint of excitement in their voice. You see, your friend Jackson here is quite the valuable asset, they began, gesturing toward Jackson with a gloved hand. But he's not the only one. We have big plans for Injin's future. Jackson's brow furrowed as he listened intently, trying to piece together the leader's intentions. What are you talking about? He demanded, his voice laced with defiance. The leader chuckled, clearly enjoying the moment. We're creating a dinosaur-centered amusement park, an attraction unlike anything the world has ever seen. Imagine it, Henry Wu's hybrids as the main attractions, drawing in crowds from all over the globe. Families, thrill-seekers, and dinosaur enthusiasts will flock to witness the wonders we've created. Emma felt a surge of anger. You think this is a game? These are living creatures, not toys for your amusement. The leader waved a dismissive hand. Oh, but you see, that's where you're wrong. This is progress. The hybrids are the future of entertainment. And with your team's knowledge and expertise, we can make this park a reality. Connor's mind raced as he processed the implications of the leader's plan. You're putting lives at risk for profit, he exclaimed, his voice rising with indignation. The leader leaned back in their chair, a smirk hidden behind the mask. And what will you do about it? You're all my prisoners now, and I have no intention of letting you go. You're far too valuable to my plans. As the weight of the situation sank in, the team realized they needed to act quickly. They couldn't let this plan come to fruition. They had to find a way to escape and stop Injin's twisted ambitions. The masked leader leaned back in their chair, a glint of ambition in their eyes as they continued to elaborate on Injin's plans for Isla Sorna. This island will become the crown jewel of our operations, they declared, their voice dripping with excitement. We're not just talking about an amusement park, we're creating a fully immersive experience. Guests will walk among the hybrids, witness them in action, and even participate in interactive exhibits. Jackson clenched his fists, anger boiling beneath the surface. You're playing with forces you don't understand. These creatures are not meant for entertainment. The leader waved a dismissive hand, clearly unfazed. Oh, but you see, that's the beauty of it. We've engineered these hybrids to be docile and entertaining. With the right training and conditioning, they'll perform for the guests, making for an unforgettable experience. We'll have everything from hybrid dinosaur races to feeding sessions, all under the watchful eye of our security. Emma felt a chill run down her spine as the leader spoke. And what happens when something goes wrong? She challenged. These are still wild animals at heart. You can't control them forever. The leader's smile widened, but it didn't reach their eyes. That's where you come in. Your expertise will ensure that everything runs smoothly. You and your team will help us train the hybrids and manage the park. In return, you will have a front row seat to history in the making. Connor exchanged a glance with Emma and Jackson, their expressions grim. They couldn't allow this to happen. The very thought of using living creatures as mere attractions was abhorrent. They needed to find a way to escape and shut down these plans before it was too late. As the leader continued outlining their grand vision for the island, the team realized they had to act swiftly. Their chance to thwart Injin's ambitions lay within reach, but they needed a solid plan. As the leader continued to elaborate on their twisted vision for the amusement park, Jackson leaned closer to Alex, whispering urgently in his ear, "Where's Shellshock? Is he okay?" Alex's heart sank at the question. He had hoped to keep Jackson's mind focused on the situation at hand, but he knew he had to be honest. "Shellshock ran off to look for you," he replied, his voice low. "He was determined to find you, but I'm worried about him. He could be in danger." Jackson's expression shifted from concern to a fierce determination. "We can't leave him behind," he whispered back, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "If he's out there alone, we need to find him." Alex nodded, understanding the bond between Jackson and Shellshock. The Velociraptor had always been more than just a pet, he was a loyal companion, and Jackson wouldn't abandon him. As the leader continued to speak, oblivious to their hushed conversation, the team felt the weight of their situation pressing down on them. They had to find a way to escape, not just for themselves but also for Shellshock. With the leader's plans echoing in their ears, the urgency of their mission became clearer. They needed to act quickly before it was too late. As the leader continued to outline the grand plans for the amusement park, Jackson's mind raced with possibilities. Suddenly, a memory flashed in his mind, the raptor whistle he had trained Shellshock to respond to. He had taught the Velociraptor to come to his aid whenever he blew the whistle, a bond forged through trust and understanding. "Wait," Jackson whispered urgently to Alex. "I trained Shellshock to come if I blow the whistle. If I can get it out, he might hear me and come to help." Alex's eyes widened with hope. "That could work. But we need to be careful. If the guards notice." "I know," Jackson interrupted, determination igniting within him. "But it's our best shot. If we can get Shellshock in here, he can create a distraction while we make our move." With a plan forming in his mind, Jackson subtly reached into his pocket, feeling the familiar shape of the whistle. He glanced at the guards, who were still focused on the leader's grandiose monologue, unaware of the brewing rebellion. Taking a deep breath, Jackson raised the whistle to his lips, ready to blow it and summon his loyal companion. The moment felt electric, filled with the weight of hope and the promise of rescue. With a deep breath, Jackson raised the whistle to his lips and blew it hard, the sharp sound cutting through the tension in the room. The leader paused mid-sentence, confusion crossing their masked face. "What are you doing?" they demanded, their tone a mix of irritation and curiosity. Before anyone could react, a powerful crash echoed through the office as Shellshock burst through the glass window, his agile body landing gracefully on the floor. The Velociraptor's eyes were fierce, and he was clearly ready to defend his friend. Jackson's heart raced with adrenaline as he blew the whistle again, a signal for Shellshock to attack. The raptor lunged forward, his instincts kicking in, and in an instant, he was upon the leader. The masked figure barely had time to react before Shellshock was on him, teeth bared and claws extended. The room erupted into chaos as the guards scrambled to regain control, but it was too late. Shellshock attacked with ferocity, mauling the leader with a primal rage that was fueled by loyalty and instinct. The leader's muffled screams filled the air, quickly drowned out by the sounds of the struggle. Jackson watched in awe and horror, knowing that this was the moment they had been waiting for. "Let's go," he shouted to the others, urging them to take advantage of the chaos. "We need to escape now." Connor, Emma, and the others sprang into action, their hearts pounding as they rushed toward the door, ready to make their escape while the guards were distracted. With the chaos of the leader's demise still echoing in their ears, Jackson shouted, "Let's go. We need to get out of here." The team sprang into action, racing toward the exit of the office. They could hear the distant sounds of alarms and guards shouting, but they had no time to waste. As they burst through the door, Jackson spotted a wooden crate nearby. "Shellshock, get in," he commanded, knowing that the Velociraptor would need to stay hidden during their escape. Without hesitation, Shellshock leaped into the crate, crouching low as Jackson quickly secured the lid. "Move, move, move," Connor urged, glancing back at the chaos behind them. The team sprinted through the corridors, adrenaline fueling their every step. They navigated the halls with purpose, dodging the panicked guards who were now fully aware of the breach in security. Finally, they burst through the main entrance of the laboratory building and into the open air. The sun shone brightly, a stark contrast to the darkness they had just escaped. They stood outside, panting and wide-eyed, taking in the moment of freedom. Just then, the sound of a plane's engines roared overhead. Jackson looked up to see a small aircraft descending, its wheels touching down on the ground before them. "That's our ride," he exclaimed, relief flooding through him. The team hurried toward the plane, their hearts pounding with the thrill of escape. They had made it this far, but they knew they had to stay vigilant. Reinforcements could arrive at any moment, and they needed to be ready to leave the island for good. As they approached the aircraft, the pilot, a familiar face from their past missions, waved them over. "Get in. We don't have much time." With Shellshock safely in the crate, Jackson led the way, climbing aboard the plane with the rest of the team close behind. They had faced incredible odds, but now, they were one step closer to freedom. As the plane's engines roared to life and the aircraft began to ascend into the sky, Jackson and the team gathered around the small cockpit area, their expressions a mix of relief and urgency. They had narrowly escaped, but the gravity of their situation weighed heavily on them. "All right, everyone, we need to discuss our next steps," Jackson said, his tone commanding yet focused. "We can't let Injun's plans for the amusement park go forward. We have to expose what they're doing here." Emma nodded vigorously. "We need evidence, something concrete that can show the world what Injun is planning. Those hybrids can't be used as attractions, they deserve to be free." Connor chimed in, "We should also warn anyone who might be trying to help. If we can get in touch with the media or environmental groups, we can rally support against Injun." Isabella, her brow furrowed in thought, added, "We should also consider how to protect Shellshock and the other dinosaurs. They aren't just experiments, they're living beings. We need to find a way to ensure their safety." Jackson glanced at each member of his team, feeling the weight of their shared mission. "Agreed. We need to gather as much information as we can and formulate a plan to expose Injun's operations. But first, we need to get out of here safely and regroup." Just then, the pilot turned to them, his expression serious. "We're not out of the woods yet. Injun will be scrambling to track us down. We need to stay sharp and be ready for anything." With their minds focused on the task ahead, the team began to strategize, knowing that their fight was far from over. After a few hours of flying, the plane finally touched down at the bustling airport in Los Angeles. The team disembarked, the familiar sights and sounds of the city washing over them like a wave of relief. They had made it back, but the weight of their mission still lingered in the air. As they stepped onto the tarmac, the reality of their situation began to sink in. Michael, Jacob, Lindsay, Rachel, and Connor gathered together, a mix of emotions evident on their faces. They had faced incredible challenges and formed bonds that would last a lifetime, but now it was time to return to their normal lives. "Thanks for everything, guys," Michael said, his voice filled with gratitude. "I couldn't have asked for a better team." "Same here," Jacob added, clapping Jackson on the shoulder. "We'll keep in touch. Let's make sure we don't let Ingen get away with this." Lindsay smiled, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Stay safe, everyone. We've got to keep fighting for the dinosaurs." With heartfelt goodbyes exchanged, the group began to part ways. Emma waved as she headed off to grab a taxi, ready to return to her life but knowing she would carry the memories of their adventure with her. Meanwhile, Jasmine stayed behind with Alex, Isabella, Jackson, and Rebecca. The four of them stood together, the sense of camaraderie still strong despite the challenges ahead. "What's next for us?" Jasmine asked, looking at the group. "We can't let Ingen's plans go unchallenged." Jackson nodded, determination etched on his face. "We need to gather evidence and expose what they're doing. We can't let this end here." Rebecca added, "We should also think about how to protect the dinosaurs. They deserve a chance at life, free from exploitation." As they stood together, united in purpose, they knew that their fight was far from over. They had each other, and together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the group stood together, contemplating their next steps, Isabella's voice cut through the tension. "Wait, everyone. I have something important to share," she said, her eyes shining with excitement. The others turned to her, curiosity piqued. "What is it, Isabella?" Alex asked, leaning in closer. "I recorded everything that the Ingen leader said about their plans for Isla Sorna and the amusement park," Isabella revealed, pulling out her phone. "I thought it might come in handy, so I made sure to capture all of it while we were in the office." Jackson's eyes widened in disbelief. "You did? That's incredible. We can use that as evidence against them." Isabella nodded, her confidence growing. "Exactly. If we can get this footage out to the public, it could rally support and expose Ingen for what they're doing." Rebecca smiled, impressed. "That could be the key to stopping them. We need to make sure everyone sees this." The group felt a renewed sense of purpose as they realized the potential impact of Isabella's recording. They now had a tangible asset that could help them in their fight against Ingen. "Let's get to work," Alex said, determination flooding his voice. "We need to strategize on how to release this footage and make sure it reaches the right people." With their spirits lifted and a plan forming, the team prepared to take the next steps in their mission. As the team gathered around, Isabella's enthusiasm was infectious. "We should use social media to spread the word about Ingen's activities quickly," she suggested, her fingers already tapping on her phone. "If we can get this footage out there, it could go viral and reach a wider audience in no time." Jackson nodded, appreciating the urgency of her idea. "That's a great plan. The more people know, the more pressure we can put on Ingen to stop their plans." Just then, Shellshock chirped softly, nudging Jackson's arm with his snout. Jackson looked down at his loyal companion, a smile breaking through the tension. "I know, buddy. We're going to make sure everyone knows what they're doing to you and your kind." The team shared a moment of camaraderie, knowing that they were fighting not just for themselves but for the dinosaurs that deserved to live free from exploitation. Isabella quickly set to work, pulling up social media platforms and preparing to share the footage. "Let's get this out to as many people as we can. We need to create a buzz." As she began uploading the recording, the rest of the team rallied around her, ready to support her efforts and spread the message far and wide. As Isabella finalized the upload of their footage, her expression shifted to one of excitement. "You guys need to see this," she exclaimed, pulling up a recent news report on her phone. The screen lit up, and the familiar logo of a local news station filled the display. The team gathered around, their eyes glued to the screen as the news anchor began to speak. In breaking news, reports have surfaced regarding the destruction of Ingen's laboratory on Isla Sorna. Eyewitnesses claim that a massive explosion has led to the facility's collapse, releasing numerous dinosaurs into the wild. The footage switched to clips of the laboratory engulfed in flames, smoke billowing into the sky. The camera panned to show dinosaurs of various species roaming freely across the island, their silhouettes stark against the fiery backdrop of the destroyed facility. Jackson felt a mix of emotions as he watched the dinosaurs reclaim their territory. "This is incredible," he murmured, a sense of hope rising within him. "They're free." Isabella continued to watch, her heart racing as the report went on. Experts are warning that the situation is dangerous, as many of these creatures were bred for specific purposes and may pose a risk to the public. However, conservationists are calling for immediate action to protect these animals from being recaptured. The team exchanged glances, realizing that this development could change everything. If the dinosaurs were free, they had a chance to protect them from Ingen's plans. "Now we have to get involved," Connor said, determination etched on his face. We can't let them be captured again. The news anchor concluded the segment, and Isabella turned to the group. This could be our opportunity to not only expose InGen but also to help these dinosaurs. As the team stood together, the weight of their mission settled over them. They had faced unimaginable challenges and emerged stronger, united by their shared commitment to protect the dinosaurs and expose InGen's corrupt plans. With the news of the laboratory's destruction and the dinosaurs roaming free, they knew their fight was far from over, but hope ignited within them. Jackson looked around at his friends, his heart swelling with gratitude. "We've come so far together," he said, his voice steady. "No matter what happens next, we'll keep fighting for these creatures and for each other." Isabella nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "We can make a difference. We just need to stay focused and work together." As they contemplated their next steps, the sun began to set over Los Angeles, casting a warm glow on the city. They knew they had a long road ahead, but they were ready to face it together. With their spirits lifted and their resolve unbroken, they turned to the future, prepared to take action for the sake of the dinosaurs and the world. And as they took their first steps toward their next adventure, they knew that their story was far from over.